Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining our webinar. We're going to wait a couple more, maybe 30 more seconds to see if we can get some more people on before we get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So again, thank you for joining our webinar. So welcome to the webinar. This is going to be our 13th module, and we're going to start wrapping up our weekly webinars. We're going to be moving into a different, little bit of a different platform, different topics. We'll be talking more about that via email. We'll invite everybody. But again, thank you for those that have been regularly coming on to our webinars. We really appreciate your support. So my name is Sal. I'm CEO and founder of Unico Media and Unico Business Solutions. I'm also director on the board of the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, as well as the GRHCC. So welcome again. So our objective with these webinars and the ones that we're going to have coming forward as well are going to be to educate, provide resources, exchange ideas, and provide solutions to our viewers and our attendees, right? Our objective is to be a resource for all. So we come up with our COVID creed. We must not keep fishing in the same dry pond. We must not quit. We must reinvent ourselves. We must double down on our marketing. And in good times, people want to advertise. In bad times, people have to advertise. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're always putting your name out there and marketing and promoting yourself. So today's webinar agenda, we're going to have, as always, Tammy kicking us off, right, with our plant-based enthusiast, president of the Black Chamber. She's going to give us some tips on health and wellness. Legal update, which is going to be with Brian Sahagun. I always mess up his last name. Attorney at law with Sahagun Law. Our chamber highlight is going to be Denise Meredith, with the CEO of the world's best connectors out of Arizona. Happy to have her on. She's going to be talking about some stuff that she's got up and coming and what she's doing with her organization. We're going to have some tax updates with Latino Tax Pro, Tony Martinez. Thank you for joining us again. And then we're going to have a quick roundtable at the end, just kind of talking about what's going on in the current environment and businesses reopening and what we're seeing out there. I think it's important to mention. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and bring Tammy on.
Well, thank you so much, Sal. I love the music in the beginning, all that wonderful energy, because I think people should be laughing, should be dancing and having fun every single minute of the day. Life is wonderful, learning to live your best life. So today I'm going to be talking, and I'm sorry, I am your IE Vegan Princess, coming to you with all the wonderful news that you need, especially as a business owner, to, live your best version of your life. Because here's the thing, we're trying to live our best life. We're trying to have the best income. We're trying to have the best business. But what about, why we keep forgetting about ourselves? Can we have the best body inside and out? Because it starts with you and it always ends with you. So when you're in the best condition that you can be, you can think clear. You don't have to worry about, I'm sick, I'm this, I'm that. No, it all starts with you. Remember, you are the most important asset to your business, but we treat ourselves like we are the end asset. We're the last people to take care of. We'll take care of the taxes. We'll take care of employees. We'll take care of everything but our health. So that's why I think Sal put me first, because we want to talk about what comes first, and that's you. So today, what I want to talk about just briefly is just, it's important, and I've talked about this before, and I love those awesome pictures that you put up, Sal. I love them. They're beautiful. What you eat. And then we're going to talk about nutrition, and we're also going to talk about mental health. I'm going to make this cute, sweet, and short. But I want to say this, you guys. If the pandemic has not, if you really want to think about everything that's going on in the world today, and especially with the pandemic and how it has affected us, how it's taken us by surprise, and we have to reinvent, we have to do all these things. Well, we need to take a step at what is actually happening. This pandemic is affecting you. It's affecting our health. So that means that we have to take a look at our health. Are you in the best health that you can be in? Are you taking care of yourself? Because if you were to get this disease, do you have any underlying diseases? Do you have any pre-existing disorders out there? Because if you do, then this is probably going to have a negative effect on you, even if you don't. But the thing is, how do you guard yourself? So the thing I want to talk about today is preparing your body for the fight. And so, well, I want to point out, good nutrition going in is going to affect the longevity of your life, and is also is going to affect your mental health. Everybody likes to talk about mental health. Oh, your mental health, you're this and that. Let's go get some meds. So everything that you put into your mouth is a direct reflection of your mental health as well, because mental health is basically your nervous system, your brain, spinal cord, everything. And that's your control center of your body. Well, there's 11 systems in the body. And so the nervous system and the integumentary and endocrine system, they all work together. The endocrine system and the nervous system work together. It is affected by chemicals put in your mouth, chemicals as food. So we're going to talk about why you need to eat right so you can help your body with all the other systems, and that main systems, nervous system and the endocrine system, which affects the mental healthness. We need to start talking about that more, because when something's wrong, what they want to do, give you medication. That's through your mouth. So we're going to put something else in your mouth to help you out and stimulate great brain functions. So I want to talk about keeping a body in an alkaline state, eating what's natural to man, natural, put on this earth for you to eat. That all producers in the world. Producers are what the sun gets the energy and puts it into the producers, known as plants. So I want you to eat plants. I want you to slowly walk away from animal products. Okay? Some of y'all, how they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Some of y'all got to eat it one bite at a time. So we're going to take a bite off of the animal one bite at a time. How about that? So put more plants into your system. So what are the foods? I want you to avoid processed foods as much as possible. I know y'all done got enough. I've seen the lines wrapped around all these little buildings. Stop it. It's processed food that's been sitting up. It has 100 bunch of chemicals in it. It's frozen. It's boxed. It's all that stuff. Okay, so let's get away from that. And canned goods, just stuff that you can't pronounce. When you turn the label around, put that back on the shelf. You don't know what that is. Put it back. It's processed because we want to keep it on the shelf as long as possible. Antioxidants are what you need, like kale, cabbage, beans, berries. We also need fresh produce that are found in the wild. Stay away from all that seedless stuff. Whole foods, foods that are not processed and have very little processing. Stay away from, I said it, stay away from, get out of them lines, okay? Stay away from milk products. They cause mucus and buildup. That's why a lot of us are running around with a lot of infections and allergies, usually from mucus buildup. And don't worry about kids, y'all. We always want to worry about our kids. Well, I ain't gonna get my husband, I'm gonna get my kids. They gonna eat what you cook, okay? Well, if they don't, you be the best version of yourself and don't let them post you. So again, once you are doing this, that mental health, which is another subject, but it's the same because we try to treat it the same way with medication. And medication, y'all, business owners, we don't like being pimped out of money. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Then don't let people pimp you on medication. It's a Band-Aid to try to solve a problem that will never, ever get solved. We don't do that in business, do we? It's like, why you want me to pay for something that's not going to solve a problem, but yet you doing that to your body? Let me put a lot of chemicals in my body so I can try to prevent something. No, sweetie. You're going to take that for the rest of your life until you solve the problem, which is attack the issue. Business people, we're great at that. Now, Sal, I want to thank you for allowing me to come on. There's a lot more information, but if people want to contact me, they can contact me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere. Get Raw with Tammy Martin -Raw. I don't care. Reach out to me. I'm your girl. I'm going to set the record straight and I'm going to give it to you raw. Vegan Princess.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I am going to start following your lead. I'm going to do it slowly though. I tried it before and I did it cold turkey and I didn't last but a week. So I'm going to start, like you said, one less bite at a time. So I'm going to cut out some meat.
Sal, there's no such word as can't. There's no such word as.
I agree. I 100%. I'm with you. All right. Thank you so much, Tammy. And up next, we have Mr. Brian. Correct me on your last name, Sagun. Right?
Brian Sagun.
Sagun. I'm sorry, Sagun.
You want to call me a goon? So just call me a goon.
No, Sagun. So Brian is our attorney that is going to be from Sagun Law. He's going to give us a quick legal update. So thank you so much, Brian, for your wonderful information and being present here today.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. So I want to talk about some COVID updates. So some first things, businesses allowed to reopen today. We're allowed to get our nail salons back today. We're allowed to get our estheticians, our cosmetologists. So pretty much at this point, most businesses are allowed to be open. We're still not allowed to have large gatherings. And as of yesterday, I'm sure everybody has heard, we must be wearing face masks when we're in public or in high-risk areas. So make sure you're ensuring compliance with the face mask rules. And hopefully most of our businesses can reopen and we can be back to our lives as it was more or less pre-COVID. So things that aren't going to be open now are sporting events for live viewing and some convention centers and just larger events like that. So let's make sure our businesses are running safe so we can try to maintain an operation. Talk about the eviction, SB 939. I've been following this for months now. Unfortunately, yesterday it was defeated in the Senate Appropriations Committee, and SB 939, which was going to provide a moratorium on evictions statewide for commercial businesses, has failed. So I do not see any relief on a statewide basis anytime soon for eviction moratoriums or for rent reimbursement payback situations in the event you've fallen behind on rent during the coronavirus outbreak. So if your city or county are not offering a ordinance that allows for your protection, make sure you're staying on top of your rent at this point. And we don't want to see anybody evicted. The courts are still generally not accepting eviction cases. So once that starts, I anticipate there's going to be a surge of eviction cases that are going to go forward with 3-day notices being given to pay back any back rent that was not paid during coronavirus. So be prepared for that. I do not see that there's going to be statewide relief whatsoever after the defeat of SB 939. I want to talk about some business issues. So as you're reopening, we want to make sure we're following our best practices for reopening. So we have a slew of coronavirus related best practices, depending on your industry. Make sure you check the state's website and any county websites for that. It's industry based. It would take way too long to discuss each industry at this point and here today. But some things to remember as you're going forward, make sure you're tracking your employees' times. So when you're reopening your business, make sure you are tracking their hours worked. Make sure you're tracking the time they come in, the time they leave, the time they go to lunch, and the time they return from lunch at a minimum. And make sure you're using those times when you're inputting the data onto your payroll so that you're paying the employees the proper amount of hours. So if their time card shows that they worked 45 hours and you're paying them for 40 hours, you're messing them over on some overtime there, as well as time that they worked. And that could be a problem for you later on. Those violations carry attorney's fees with them and also interest and penalties. So it's much cheaper to take care of it now, even if you have to bite the bullet on it. Employee reimbursement. In the event you're going to maintain your business operating remotely, I've talked about this before, continue to think about it. If they're paying internet, if they're paying for their cell phone and you're using those for business purposes, you owe them reimbursement. So come up with some sort of a reimbursement plan, do a little bit of research, find out what the average rate would be for their internet, their phone, whatever other thing they're using for your business, and come up with a plan that says how they're going to be paid. You can set a number as long as you've done the research on it. So if you at the end of the day determine it's $15 per employee, that number will be honored by the courts unless an employee comes to you and shows you that they're spending more, at which point you have to pay them the greater amount. So set some kind of policies in the event you're continuing to have your employees work from home. Workers' compensation insurance, vital right now. It's always vital. I still see tons of people who don't get it. Carries penalties. You can be penalized. You can be prosecuted. You can be penalized by the Workers' Compensation Appeals Board. You can be penalized by the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, by EDD. So make sure you have workers' compensation insurance. And it's especially vital now in light of the governor's order that any employee that contracts coronavirus will be deemed to be work-related as long as they worked within 14 days of contracting the coronavirus. So make sure your workers' comp insurance is paid and you have it, because you don't want to be stuck with big medical bills, or God forbid the event one of your employees dies, there is a death benefit that has to be paid as well. That could definitely put you out of business very easily. Remember sexual harassment training. So effective January 1st of 2019, employers of 5 or more employees had to provide sexual harassment training for their employees, all of their employees, not just management. 1 hour for employees, 2 hours for management. So make sure you're complying with those as you go forward. It's sexual harassment / I call it bullying training, so that you don't have those issues in your workplace. And finally, issues I see, make sure you get everything in writing, whether it's your partnership agreement, whether it's a contract, whether it's you're doing services for somebody, whatever it is, get it in writing. You never know when somebody's going to turn their back on you. You never know when you're going to have an issue later on. If you put money into something, you definitely want a receipt or something showing what that is. So if you're investing in a business, make sure you're listed as somebody on that business. Make sure your percentage is listed on that business. If not, you could face problems later on in the event you try to prove it otherwise. With that, I will turn it back over. I will hang around for the panel at the end if you guys need anything for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. Very good information. I think we're all ready to get back to normal, but as we're going to talk at the end, we also have to be very, very careful because we're seeing the numbers spike up again. So
absolutely,
very good information. Awesome. All right. So let's continue on. We're bringing on one of our chamber partners. Actually, she's more than just a chamber. She's a partner. I'll let you explain what the organization is all about. Denise, World's Best Connectors, is also, again, a partner of ours. So Denise Meredith from Arizona, you have the floor.
Thanks, Sal. Really appreciate being invited. World's Best Connectors, the WBCs. It's a small virtual organization consisting of CEOs. And it's different in that it's virtual. Of course, now everybody's virtual. So we were ahead of the crowd. So we've been using Zoom for a long time, and now everyone is using Zoom. So and Sal can probably attest to it. It's made it a little easier now to talk to people. We used to have to convince people to get on RingCentral or Zoom.
That's right.
But now it's beneficial. So I met Sal at our conference last year. So I want to talk about our conferences. Right. Our annual conference, since it's a virtual organization, we do everything virtually. So we do emails, Zoom calls, webinars, those types of things. But once a year, we have an in-person event, and that's our annual conference. And this year it's going to be on October 23rd. Luckily, we had scheduled it late in the year, and we had done that ahead of time.
Perfect. We
didn't know all these other problems were going to show up. But we're hoping, obviously, by October 23rd, things have loosened up a bit. We're going to have it at SkySong, which is a spectacular research center managed by ASU. It's over in Scottsdale. And it's a very big, modern, high-tech building. So we should be able to even manage social distancing or some of those activities. Yeah, if we have to resort to that for this in-person event. But if not, if things are going really bad, we can always fall back to what we do best, which is having virtual conferences. So we're very excited about it. Just a little bit of background on it. What it is, what we focus on in World's Best Connectors are what I call the 5 connections, the 5 C's. So the 5 C's are 1, your connections with your family. That's become a big issue in a different way than we had intended. Originally, we talked about normal family things like how to get your kids off of the iPad so you could talk with them. Okay, COVID has pretty much solved the problem of communicating with your kids because you've been with them all the time now. So what does that create? That's created a lot of different problems. You have CEOs who are not used to having spent all this time with their families. So 1, how are they getting along with that system? And 2, okay, that system ends. People start to go back. Have your relationships changed? How have they changed? For the better, for the worse? And how you manage those type of family issues. So that's one of our connections. The next one we'll talk about is employees. That again has changed. Last year, we were talking about generational divides, generational issues. Some offices can have like 4 different generations working in the same office. And how do you communicate when you have very different values, very different beliefs, and very different modes of communication? Now, again, it's changed a little bit with COVID. Now suddenly, none of your employees are in the office. Okay, how do you deal with that system? How do you manage people that you don't even see? And I've had some experience with that. I taught for Cornell University for 10 years, and there were international classes with adults, with business people in different parts of the world. It presents new challenges to even how you communicate with them. So we have, again, some specialists that can help people figure that out. How do you evaluate performance? How do you set performance standards? What if people want to come back? What if people don't want to come back? There are a lot of issues going on that they can help with. The third C we talk about is clients, and that's more of what Sal and I are used to, which is how do you set up partnerships, how you make deals, how you make things happen. And we have a lot of that going on in our group right now. Despite the fact that it's been, we've had this issue, there's a lot of stuff bubbling. There's a lot of proposals floating around. Real estate has not, for some reason, slowed down in Arizona at all. Commercial development. In fact, some of them have been able to speed up because they haven't had all these people hanging around. They've actually increased some of their speed in finishing some of these projects. So we're going to talk about clients. And again, during the pandemic, did you lose clients? Did you gain clients? How do you get clients back? Those are the types of issues we'll be talking about. The fourth C is government, okay? Government has been a big issue, good and bad. We won't talk about PPPs, I promise, because we've had enough talk about PPP, so we won't be talking about that. But we'll be talking about things like what next for the government. And again, contracting has been going on here with Arizona Department of Transportation. They're still cranking out the contracts that people can apply for. So how do we help people get those contracts? And finally, the last one is media. And I've already got a couple of good speakers lined up for media. Media has had a major impact, as we can see, on the whole COVID issue. Media has a super major impact on the civil unrest issue. So how do you use media to your benefit? How do you use it or prevent it from killing your business? Some of that can happen too if you don't do it correctly. So those are the 5 areas we're going to deal with. We'll have panel discussions, we'll have talks, we'll have famous CEOs, some maybe people you haven't heard of, but are experts from colleges or universities. We're pretty excited about it. So we're looking forward to, again, Sal's participation and his group, Unico. Unico is our marketing arm, and they're helping with promote this. If you go to our website, www.thewbcs, so THEWBCS.com, you can register online today. And I will forewarn people, it's a small group, a small select group. So despite COVID or anything else, it's always been a small group. We had a lot of positive feedback last year because it was small. People could actually get to meet people, talk to people. So often in some networking events, you go and you're sitting at table 66 and you wanted to talk to somebody at table 22 and never the tide shall meet. So with our conferences, you do get to meet and talk with people, exchange information, and things happen like Sal and I getting together after the conference to form a partnership. So I want to encourage everybody to sign up as soon as you can. Again, we have very limited registration, which again, wasn't intentional, but that's good. In fact, we're talking about COVID and its impacts on how many people you can accommodate. So go ahead and go online, www.thewbcs.com, and join us in October.
Very good. Denise, we do have a question. Can we get contact info as far as the speakers? Is that you're going to give us a list? Do we already have that on the website?
Yeah, that's going to be coming up. We actually have an app that's coming up. It's going to be up. Okay. That'll have bios and everything from the speakers. I'm finalizing the speakers month in June. So by July, we'll have a pretty complete agenda up for people to see. And it'll be on the website, and it'll also be on an app that we're going to put out.
Perfect. And I also want to, talk a little bit about your experience. I know you've been in government as well. So you have a very well-versed group of individuals, high-level individuals that really bring a lot of value to a lot of the business owners. So, I mean, it's when she says small, it's a small, very select group that really brings quality to any business owner. So there's very good connections to be made. It's definitely worth the drive. I made the drive last year, and I would have been in Arizona 3-4 times this year already if it wasn't for this COVID situation.
Right.
But again, highly encourage everybody to make the effort to be there. And like she said, time is limited. I mean, spaces are limited, so register as soon as possible. So again, thank you so much, Denise. If you don't have anything more to add,
no, just want to thank Sal and his group. Great marketing system that they have. Employees are fantastic, easy to work with. We encourage people to use their marketing system. It's been good for us. Thank you so much, Denise. It's been good for us.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Appreciate that feedback. Okay, so up next, just real quick, want to thank all our chambers and partners: California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Pomona Chamber of Commerce, Inland Regional Chamber, GRHCC, Black Chamber of Commerce, World's Best Connected. We already spoke to Denise. Antelope Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, High Desert Hispanic Chamber of Commerce are one of our affiliate partners as well. Alliance of the Multicultural Entrepreneurs, Latino Tax Pro, and Inland Empire Business Journal. So thank you all, those chambers, for being a part of this. And now we're going to go into our kind of final wrap up here. Actually, no, we're going to a tax update. So up next is Tony from Latino Tax Pro, a great partner of ours. So Tony, why don't you enlighten us with what's going on with the tax environment?
Yes. So I want to remind everyone that the CARES Act and other Coronavirus Family First Response Act has enabled certain tax credits and certain tax benefits in order for small business owners to navigate through the craziness, through the COVID environment. Tax relief, that's the word I was looking for. So one of the first things I want to cover is retirement distribution. So if you do have a retirement plan, whether it be an IRA, 401k, you could receive or you could distribute up to $100,000 from that plan to yourself. You could take out up to $100,000 between this year, between January 1st and the end of the year. If you do that, you will not incur that additional early withdrawal penalty if you are under 59 and a half years old. So usually if you're under 59 and a half years old, you withdraw some money, you get taxed, not just your regular income tax rate, but you get a penalty because you're doing it too early. So what the CARES Act has enabled individuals to do is withdraw up to $100,000 if it's done this year, and you are not going to incur that additional penalty, which is 10% of the total amount that you withdraw. Now, when you take out the money, you have two options. You could either repay it back within 3 years, and it goes back into your account. You're not going to get taxed on it at all because you didn't keep it. But if you decide, let me withdraw 75 grand, I'll put back 50, I'll keep 25. I don't want to put back, maybe you spent the 25, right? You need to spend it because of what's going on. Whatever you do keep that you don't put back within 3 years, that tax rate or that tax will be paid over the term of 3 years also. So if you keep $25,000 that you don't put back, you have up to 3 years to put it back. But if you keep it, you could pay it next year, the year after, and the year after that. So it's not like next tax season coming up, you're going to get this big bill for the income tax of the distribution. So I know it could get a bit confusing, but remember, you have 3 years to put it back, or if you do keep it, you got 3 years to pay that tax. Number one. And then the second thing is, if you are taking, some of us sometimes take out a loan against our 401k money. So you could lend yourself up to $100,000 from your 401k. Usually it's 50, but now it's up to 100,000 and these dates are different, so be aware of this, if you take out the money between March 27th and before September 22nd. 2020. So before September 22nd, and now we're just talking about loans, you could take out that money up to 100,000 instead of 50. And if you're currently repaying any of those loans or that loan back to your 401k, you may be aware that that loan repayment has been eliminated for the year. So you don't have to repay anything this year until next year. So that's this 401k loan and repayment. Now, moving on to the next point, employer tax credits. Be aware that there are two different credits you could take advantage of if you have employees and if you are considering laying them off, putting them on furlough because of decrease in sales. Maybe some of them are sick or have been experiencing symptoms of COVID-19. So the credit for sick and family leave, that one allows you to continue paying employees to stay home if they're experiencing symptoms and they made an appointment to go get a test. They could stay home and you could use that credit to pay for them. Or if they need to stay home because they need to care for a child that the school has been closed or the daycare has been closed, or if they're staying home to take care of a spouse or family member, the credit for sick and family leave allows you to continue paying that. And the way you get that money is from your payroll deposits. So usually, when you make those payroll, you pay Social Security or Medicare tax, You grab the money from there. And there's a form 7200 that you could fill out, send in to get money for you to keep these individuals on payroll, even though they're home because they're sick. The other situation is called the employer retention credit, and that's if nobody's sick, but basically your sales have dropped significantly. Usually, if you're experiencing sales of less than half compared to last year, whether you're a restaurant, maybe you are a construction contractor, if your sales have dropped, you could use the employer retention credit to keep employees on payroll. Even though you may be considering, hey, let me lay them off, my sales are really low, but the employer retention credit gives you essentially free money to pay them. And where do you get that money from? From number one, the payroll taxes. But if you don't have enough payroll to grab money from there, you fill out form 7200 in order to get those credits. Moving on, reminder, the tax deadline is upon us. Tax season is finally coming to an end. We're like, getting crazy. July 15th, individuals need to submit their individual tax return. If you're a Schedule C, also need to submit it by, if you're a sole proprietor, by July 15th. Now, if you're an S corporation or a partnership, you may be aware that your deadline was March 16th. It already passed. But more than likely, your tax professional gave you an extension. So your extension is due September 15th. So if you're an S Corp and partnership and you got an extension, you need to file by September 15th. Now, if you're an individual and you want to get an extension, you can get an extension. You get all the way to October 15th. So not to confuse you, but extension is only more time to file, not more time to pay. So if you're an S Corp and partnership, you had to pay your taxes by March 16th. Hopefully you made some payment, but you may still have, I'm sure your tax pro, if they made an extension, you got till September 15th. But the rest of us, individuals, do it by July 15th, pay by July 15th. If you need more time to get your stuff together, you could file by October 15th with an extension. Finally, estimated payments. Usually you pay your estimated tax payments. The first quarter is due April 15th. Then the second quarter is due June 15th. Both of those are going to be due July 15th. So I'm sure maybe you haven't made them, unless you made them already, right? But if you haven't made any payments at all, your individual taxes are due July 15th, your first quarter estimated payment, and your second quarter, all due July 15th. So hopefully that's not too overwhelming, but that's what's going on. Any questions?
Awesome. I don't see any questions coming in through right now, but if we have some during the remainder of the presentation, we'll for sure let you know. So you could probably just go ahead and stay on, Tony. We're going to go ahead and go into our round table here. So Memo, if you can please change the slide. So we're going to bring on our partner here in Legal Counsel, Ms. Carmen Lainez. And everybody else, if you guys can unmute yourselves and join the conversation. So, some of the things that I wanted to touch on and I thought are important kind of current events is, what's going on with the reopening challenges that we're seeing out there with face masks increasing in cases, social distancing. What are we seeing out there that we're finding challenging, right? Also liability to employers with this reopening. Denise, if you want to unmute yourself so that you can join the conversation, feel free to. There you go. And then finally, I wanted to touch on the George Floyd protests and the riots that are going on because, we're going through this crazy pandemic and that as well is also affecting our businesses. Ironically, we're able to reopen and now we have this new challenge to deal with. I'm all about the protest 100%. I'm not all about the riots personally, right? A little bit of political situation. I respect all opinions, by the way, and I respect everybody's position. That's what good dialogue is all about, is respecting everybody's beliefs and without any bias. But at the end of the day, what have you guys seen with masks, wearing the mask? I just got back from Texas and it seems like they're very lax over there. Nobody's wearing masks. You're going into the stores and it's like very little disregard. One of my nephews actually in Texas, I didn't see him. I stayed away, but he contracted COVID COVID, the virus, and it's, it doesn't really affect you until it kind of hits home. Then you're like, all right, maybe I should take this seriously. And sadly, psychologically, when it's family or close friends, you kind of, you kind of want to shake hands, but you don't, and you have that awkwardness. But really, I think that especially right now, going back to business, opening up businesses, we're seeing spikes already increasing, right? So I think that my feeling on it is that we should double down, not on marketing, but on our face masks and gloves and cleanliness, because it's going to be worse, I think, if we don't do that. So anyway, that's my point. Carmen, what's your take? Or anybody else that'd like to chime in?
I agree with that. I think Tammy, Will, and I had a conversation a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the protests, and we were talking how people want to get their voice heard. But at the same time, you need to practice social distancing. You need to be wearing your face mask. You need to be taking care of the people around you, right? So because you never know where you're going to contract it, how you're going to contract it. You need to protect yourself. You need to protect your loved ones. And it is hard because you go into, even within California, you go to different counties. Certain counties, like Orange County, is like, no, don't wear your mask. You don't have to. Then it's optional. And some counties are like, no, you must wear your mask. And I think that was part of why the governor decided yesterday to mandate the masks again, just because of the rising numbers. As business owners, what we don't want happening is that we regress and then the numbers spike and then we're going to close down again because we weren't practicing social distancing. We weren't wearing our face masks. We're not constantly washing our hands. And I think that's important. And I think it's important for everybody to know. And then it's hard for employers to make sure that they have the adequate mask, that these are additional things that they didn't have to have in their business in order to maintain their employee safety and then also their clients and customer safety. But yeah, it ends up being something that's so simple as a mask, but people say it bothers me. I don't like wearing it, and it is laxed. And me personally, sometimes I won't wear it, and I'm like, oh shoot, like I need to put it back on, right? Or where did I leave it? But as time has gone by, I think that I'm getting more and more used to it. I don't know how it is, Denise, in Arizona. I don't know how things are in Arizona.
And Arizona has gone from first to worst. It was doing very well through April, and mainly because we don't have density here, we don't have public transportation, we don't have apartment buildings, we don't have some of this stuff that would aggravate that. Mainly people here get together for sports. Sports was closed down. So things were going pretty well. And then we had a visit from the president. Anyway, and they had a plan not to open till sort of the end of May. And testing had gone up, things were going well. The president arrived and plan went out the window and they opened up that week he was here. So since that time, it's been just downhill. Every day is the biggest number of cases now. We're at that point. Every single day is the new record here for a number of new cases. Running out of hospital bed, hospital beds for ICU, et cetera, et cetera. So everybody went into an uproar again. And so they decided now masks, the governor wouldn't decide on masks. So anyway, he said everybody could decide themselves. So each city has a different rule on masks. So Phoenix just voted this morning to make masks mandatory. Scottsdale, Mesa, I think, some of the other, but it's each of an individual city here is good. So that adds to the confusion, I think, to people, and we'll see. I think long-term, we have a really good opportunity to recover quickly. Again, because we don't have the density issue so much here and some of the other kinds of things to aggravate that type of infections. But until we get handle on the management, the leadership issue here, that's been sort of the major problem. But and you have an elderly population here too.
Right. Yeah.
Why that was not taken into account as much as it should have been. I don't know. But anyway, that's a really big issue. And you look at our charts, it's the older people are just sort of off the scale as far as the number of infections now and the number of deaths that are happening. So we'll see. But, I guess we will survive. It's just like everything else. And you're seeing it in the other cities. Obviously, Florida is tanked. So these cities and states that didn't follow the rules, so to speak, as far as doing what they needed to do, it's backfiring on them. And the bad part is it affects everybody else. We're right next to Nevada, right next to California. So we're in it together. Nobody took that seriously. So, now New York is talking about not letting people back to New York because now New York is suddenly the best. They went from worst to first as far as being the best. So we don't have any, travel restrictions or anything. People have slowed down coming. What I said is fascinating. The real estate market is still booming. People are buying and selling houses and stuff. But obviously tourism is our big to-do. And that's sort of ground to a halt. So we'll see what happens. I don't know, Nevada. Tammy, are you in Nevada? Who's in Nevada?
I'm in San Bernardino.
Oh, you're in San Bernardino. Okay. So Nevada, good. Then I can talk about Nevada. No, I won't.
But I think getting to your point, I think it's just about holding ourselves accountable. So making sure that we and the ones that are surrounding us, are practicing that social distancing. I saw a comment by Sarah. She said she went to a fundraiser where they insisted that she didn't have to keep it on or hugging and kissing. It's one of those things where some people don't feel comfortable, some people feel comfortable, and we should respect everybody's decision to do so. And just trailing into a different subject, can I tell you guys how excited I am about the Supreme Court Justice's decision about DACA students that just came by yesterday? As a community, I think that that's worldwide. I just wanted to express how excited I am that this is only the first step for DACA recipients because now they're able to at least have their status. There's going to be more fights, but as a community, I think that if we all get together, different states and so forth, make sure that we voice our opinion and support dreamers because we need dreamers. I wanted to say how proud I am of that. And then leading to today to Juneteenth. So I don't know if Tammy, you can give us a little bit about history because I was speaking to my siblings yesterday over dinner and they're younger. They didn't really understand what Juneteenth was or why we were celebrating it or any of the panelists. Can you give us a little bit of history or the viewers of why we celebrate today?
Okay, Juneteenth is pretty much a celebration that the slaves were already emancipated. And what had happened was down south, the laws had not been, especially in Texas, it hasn't been acted on. So he had to send down a report to Texas, the president, and say, hey, guess what? All slaves are free. I know Denise is laughing, but we free. True. So that's 2 years later.
Exactly.
That information got sent down on June 19th. And that was 1965? And
1865.
1865.
What did I say? 19? Yeah, 18.
Might as well have been 18.
Feel like it. But anyway, I probably did mean to say 1965. But so yes, and to say, you need to release, they are free because they thought that they were still in slavery. And so they didn't know. And so that was a great celebration that they had. And every year they brought that celebration with their families and, to show that this is the day that we were truly emancipated. It is said it in the laws 2 years before in 63, but 65, it actually happened. So in Texas. So that's why it's such a big deal, and I still say, sometimes you still don't feel free. So maybe we need to do Juneteenth every year.
Every day, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think at least most older African Americans knew about it. I think most African Americans knew about it.
And I think that's important. Like today, like marks a really important day leading up from the George Floyd like protests and hearing your voice because, like you guys are saying, that was 1865, and how much have the times changed so that there's not discrimination against brown and blacks, right? Against immigrants, against people of color. So we need to continue making our voices heard, going and reaching out to our elected officials, like doing everything that we possibly can because getting this out, just even of what it means to celebrate Juneteenth, that's huge for people to know, right? Not everybody knows about it. I know that after this, I'm going to go to a celebration that's in a park and they're practicing social distancing. Like they're asking you to wear your face mask, but it's in a park and we're going to experience like the culture and like the background. And I think that's beautiful, but we need to continue making sure, like Tammy was saying, it's not just one day out of the year, it's making awareness throughout the year.
Yeah. The other big thing, obviously, that happened this week is LGBT rights.
Yes.
And that came out of the blue. I don't think anybody even knew that was under consideration this week or this year even. But it's particularly significant for Arizona. We do have a high percentage population LGBTQ folks here, but it's not more meaningful. It was more meaningful in a way because this was a state where you could still be fired for being gay. You did not have to give any other reason for firing someone here.
That's horrible.
Oh my goodness.
If once you found out they were gay, you could fire them legally. Okay. Which was insane, but it was true. That was where it was here. And they tried several times to get that overturned in the past. And we even had a few years ago where the state legislature had passed 1062, was what they call it, state bill 1062, which said that you could discriminate against gay people in servicing them. You didn't have to serve them in your restaurant, you didn't have to fix their car, you didn't have to do any of that. Luckily, that got stomped down. I got the governor to veto it. But the fact that it was passed and the governor had to veto it was unbelievable.
And I'm proud of our Supreme Court. I'm so proud of our Supreme Court because I don't think anybody expected our Supreme Court to make two huge decisions in 1 week and more going and favoring, for DACA recipients, for the LGBTQ community, so that they cannot be fired from their job because they are in the LGBTQ community. That's huge. Because like you're saying, in different states, like different things work. And what you just said in Arizona, that's crazy that was even on the table, that I don't have to be served or someone doesn't have to be served. That's ridiculous. But these are things that like little by little, I see progress. I would love to see more progress, but we'll take it step by step. And I'm happy for the small, ones that we can actually.
That was the only good news this week, those two. But the issue, what I put on my Facebook, at least we have one branch of government that's working. That's all I can say. It's one branch that's actually coming to work and doing things. The other two, I'm not too sure what they're doing, but they're not being helpful right now. So,
I have a question to the group, and this is kind of personal, and I'd like to get a feedback on that. Right. So I have two boys, two very passionate boys. I have my oldest is 27. He was in the Air Force, and I have an 18-year-old. And my 27-year-old has been going out to protest. Right, he's super smart. Obviously the Black Lives Matter movement. Right, my youngest wants to start going out and protest. Right, so as a parent, my first reaction is no. I don't want you to go out there and expose yourself to the rioting and all that. But on the other hand, I want them to also express themselves and stand behind what they believe, right? So, I had a long conversation with my son yesterday, my youngest, as we come back. And then I also had a conversation with my oldest, and I was actually very proud. I was actually very proud of how intelligently he spoke of the movement and of why he was out there and why he was supporting it. And how he was doing it, right? He's trying to stay safe. And he goes, Dad, I'm smart enough to know when to leave, and I'm not around I leave when the curfew is up. And so he's taking all those precautions. So it felt good for me to hear that. Actually, he just walked in while he's walking on that. But at the same time, I was telling my youngest, no, I'm afraid, and that, I'm afraid for you. I don't want something to happen to you. So, I told him, I said, look, we have to be smart and be intelligent about how we protest, and not only that, be effective, right? Because I'm all about the movement, of course. I have a very, very diverse group of friends and family as well, as our panel here shows it today. And so with that said, everybody's life is important, but obviously certain ones have been suppressed a lot more. Certain ethnic groups have been suppressed a lot more. So what do you guys feel? What's your take on how to protest, right? Being smart about it and not allowing a platform for these rioters and these people that are really going to come and affect our businesses in a negative way. So basically they're just kind of shielding themselves behind the protesters that are out there doing it right and truly doing it for a passion. Because I'm seeing it with my own kids. Like, they're just, they don't have any vested interest in it. They're just out there passionately, wanting to do something for our community. My oldest son, he goes, Dad, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm putting money into groups that are helping rebuild after the riots. There's actually groups that have come out of it that are unifying and connecting to basically help all these businesses that were affected by the riots, and they're taking donations. So he's like, I'm donating to those groups as well to help the businesses that were taken advantage of. And he says there's going to be casualties of war so that we can be heard. And my youngest wants to buy a gun for protection. So I mean, there's all kinds of stuff to consider, right? So anyway, just wanted to put it out there. What do you guys think?
Well, can I speak up? I would like to say something.
Sure.
And I'm going to say a lot of stuff, okay? And it might not make a lot of sense to you, but I'm going to say a lot of stuff. Okay.
Do it.
Now, I know that we want to talk about what hurts businesses and stuff, and I'll be the first to line up. But I like, especially when the lawmakers and the police officers are saying, oh, we don't want to stand for loot, but they are the race looters and freaking unselfish people in America. Let me take you back to civil rights. When Black people were protesting and they were the freaking looters and they were the ones that come out with the hoses and dogs and did all of this destruction. So I think what you see now is angered people of things that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how you do it correctly, that nothing gets heard unless people go out and do foul stuff like that has been done in the past. And I think what people are forgetting is that, and when you say other people have been harmed more than others, you're damn right, they have been, because, been hung, limbs been cut, been raped, been doing all of this stuff. And it takes a form sound of redlining completely, of just doing everything possible to mankind to do as much racial stuff as possible. And I know we talk about LGBTQ and all that stuff. One thing you can't change is the color of somebody's skin. You can change what comes out of somebody's mouth. You can withhold information. But to keep getting suppressed, pushed against the wall, I can tell you 10,000 things that I've experienced as a Black woman that probably a lot of people have not, my counterparts have not even experienced. Do I have a lot of passion in my voice? Yes. But when I hear a lot of stuff, when people talk about how can we do the reform, how can we do this with helping people when crosses and houses were burned down to Black people just in the 1960s. And nobody was going in giving them money to rebuild their homes. Exactly. And so, it's like, come on, let's keep it 100 and let's keep it real. Because I hate when people come around and talk about how are we going to help the people that's been hurt. Bull? Are you kidding me? I grew up in the South. I seen stuff when I was 5 and 6 years old and how people got hurt. Nothing was reimbursed. Zero. So if you want to talk about the true looters, if you want to talk about the true injustice to hurting people and hurting business, I have to go back to the same people who are projecting it and the same people who are making the laws and who did not help. And I like the fact that everybody's stepping in now and they're wanting to come in and they're wanting to help, but it takes visually seeing somebody go through this instead of we've been saying it out of our mouth every week, every month. We've been talking about racism, but until you see somebody get killed and you done seen 20,000 movies, we done told you cops beat up. We done told you over and over again, we take pictures and then this is what it comes to. It's called, I am fed up. And when you get to a fed up point, we want everybody to say, well, gee, why'd you do that?
Why'd you do that? What? Yeah.
So I'm just saying, whether it's right or not, have somebody come in and slap your mama around, slap everybody, all your ancestors, slap, slap, slap. And the laws are still there. The laws don't protect. The laws lie. People do not come in, and then you still sitting there, and then you like, oh, now you wanna talk about justice and let's be nice. I'm done.
Good job. I always, I've written several articles about that, been published the past few weeks, and it's and I don't understand. People have to listen. If they listen, they might understand. And exactly what she's saying is exactly right. You can't keep smashing a population down for 400 years and then wonder why there's an eruption. Okay. Your son's is fantastic. Okay. I protested in the 60s. I protested in the 70s. I protested in the 80s. I protested in the 90s. Okay. I'm done protesting only because I'm old. Okay. That's the only reason I'm not out there. But you have to do that. Your sons have to do that. They have to experience that. They have to decide on their own what they want to do related to that. I think there's a major exaggeration about the looters. Okay. How many people were out there with guns smashing into the, what was that, courthouse in Minneapolis? White people with guns. Okay. Where were the cops? Where were the National Guard? Where was everybody then? So I don't want to hear about looters now. It was a very small number. Two, a lot of that was like the first week and it's pretty much died down, may pop up again. But I think there was a lot of exaggeration of how much of that was going on compared to the thousands and thousands and thousands of peaceful protesters that were out there. And I think people are not focusing because it's a distraction. And Trump has, made it a distraction. Oh, all these, and focus on the, 10 looters versus the, 2,000 people that were not, that were behaving peacefully. It's just, and it's, it's not a matter, you don't have to condone it, okay? Understanding why the looters are doing what they're doing. And then, of course, it turns out that there's these white groups behind the looting, okay, that are pretending to be Antifa. That's the only name they know now, Antifa. So everybody's pretending to be Antifa. And, FBI has found that out. FBI has reported on that. You have Antifa people pretending to be Black Lives Matter people, okay? So like I said, I think it's an exaggeration. It's something to be, I'm glad you're worried about it because I'm glad you had the conversation. You might have never had that conversation with your sons, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Is that you both have a better understanding of each other. And that's really a good thing that's come out of it. I've, in the past, tried to write unsuccessfully about mixed race issues in this country. And I said about all these demonstrations going on, people are going, hey, wait a minute, that's my daughter out there. Hey, that's my son-in-law out there. People having a different understanding of race in America because it's different people involved now in race in America. 10 years ago, census had 15% of people were mixed race. That was 10 years ago. What is it going to be now? That was 10 years ago when people were not afraid to put down that they were mixed race, okay? So just that alone has changed the attitudes, has changed the people that are out there demonstrating, has changed. So suddenly it's your relatives, not just these Black people. It's like, oh, it's my grandkids. Okay, that's going on too, as far as changing people's attitudes towards it. But, you know, you have a right to be worried. We can all be worried about it.
Sure.
But I think what was more positive was that you talked to your sons about it, you know? And I mean, I have a gun, but that doesn't, gun ownership is, I worked in the Bureau of Land Management. We all had guns. Gun ownership and it's alone is not a negative issue.
Yeah, and one of the things that I told them is that we should organize as well and think, there's a lot of us leaders in the community that we can help the whole movement and how we get more involved. And I think that's obviously a separate conversation we can have. We're kind of introducing this because of what's going on in the reopening stages, but on a different level, we can all independently have that conversation and really leverage whatever we can possibly leverage to help. Because I myself don't feel like I'm doing anything. I really don't. And as you know, a lot of times you learn from your kids. Your kids teach you some huge lessons, right?
Right. Exactly.
And I think these are some of those times where it's time to take a stand. So anyhow, well,
a lot of different ways to help. There are all kinds of ways to help. Right. I sent out 50 letters yesterday, literally 50 letters to corporations here. I said, what the fuck are you doing? I said it in a nice way. But, I'm tired of reading all these things in the newspaper. Message from Joe Blow, CEO. And how much I value diversity. If all these people value diversity, we wouldn't have this problem now. So I'm just calling people out, and there'll be a lot of angry people at me, I'm sure, next week. but now's the time. I got to speak up. I'm old. Not much they can do to me. so I'm getting reckless in my old age. But Tammy expressed it very well. If you look on my Facebook page, you'll see I've posted some things, some videos, whatever. And I posted a bunch of videos that people I think need to look at, and simple things that you wouldn't think of. There was a video that I posted, the link of Black baseball players, and people go, "Oh, what's that got to do with anything?" Okay, to hear their stories, is
how about military? How about military who went over and served with biggest? They pimped us so hard, got back, wasn't even free in our own land, still hung in uniforms. You guys, I can give so many stories, it will make you blind.
Yeah, it's sad. And what I thought was sad about the baseball players, these are young guys. I mean, that, and my evolution and things, I integrate, again, I'm old, so I integrated schools. I integrated junior high school.
I did too.
Integrated high school. Okay. I went to Cornell, integrated Cornell. Okay. I've done all my integration stuff. But anyway, here these baseball players, it sounds like they're integrating. This is 2020. And you got these young guys trying to integrate baseball. It's ridiculous. So I'm glad to hear from Tammy. You'll hear a lot of us, and they go, "Oh my God, what happened?" But no, it's all living and learning, and allies. I talked about, the gay community and whatnot. I'm not gay, but I've been a strong ally, as they call us, for that.
Sure.
There are so many issues, and it all comes down to the same thing: not valuing people. It's not valuing life. Okay, that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
The whole COVID thing. They're not valuing life.
And switching gears onto that COVID, I mean, same thing. We're not valuing lives when we're not protecting ourselves or protecting when we're going out in public. That's also directly not valuing lives, like you said. So,
Yeah.
But anyhow, I
Okay.
think we have to start wrapping this up. Thank you very much for the feedback. I think it was enlightening. Everything was well passionate. And,
You didn't know what box you opened, did you?
No. Hey, I love it. I love it. That's why I love Tammy, because she keeps it real every single time.
Get
What
wrong.
you see is what you get. That's right. That's right. What you see is what you get, and that's what I like to surround myself with. So,
Okay.
we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna continue these webinars. We're gonna be changing the platform a little bit. What our topics are gonna be. I think we have a lot of good feedback. A couple of our presenters had to step off for a minute
Sure.
because they had other meetings. They had already told me so, but anyhow, just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. But we will continue these. Thank you very much to all that attended. Thank you very much for the panelists for contributing and enlightening us with all this information. And we'll be in touch via email, letting everybody know what's coming up next. So thank you very much for attending, everyone.
Happy
That's
Juneteenth.
going to be the conclusion of the webinar.
Take care.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.